These fools, right, and that's what I'm going to call them, ignorant, willfully blind fools, have no idea with the powers that they're dealing with. None. No idea at all. None. To say that Israel's doing a genocide, they're fighting for their lives.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! From the river to the sea!
See, from the river to the sea, that chant, that's the annihilation of the Jews. That's a prophetic chant asking for, right, into the heavenlies and the spiritual realm to hasten the annihilation, eradication of the Jewish race. Now, this is how disrespectful these people are. We've just had why aren't the police taking these people away? He's just said from the river to the sea. He just said it. It's there in black and white. They should be going and finding him and taking him away. They've taken some poor old bloke away that walked through the middle of them with a sign saying, blame Hamas. They lumbered him off like he was a crim. That's the criminal there. From the river to the sea is not hate speech. That's murder. That's asking for murder. Here we go with the pro-Palestine stuff in Sydney again. Apparently they're doing it in defiance, and they're nothing but trouble, these people, for mine.
Let's cross now to Sydney's Town Hall, where there is an unauthorised pro-Palestine protest taking place. Protesters there are defying New South Wales Premier Chris Minns's 14-day protest ban, and Julia Bradley is live there for us. Julia, police have said this week they won't hesitate to crack down on people doing the wrong thing. What is it like there at the moment? Can you talk us through the atmosphere?
Well, Caroline, I'd say the number of police officers is pretty much on par with the number of people who have turned out to take part in this demonstration tonight. It got underway officially at 6 o'clock. You can see members of the pro-Palestine community down here at Sydney Town Hall. Now, one of the reasons for them turning out tonight is that they, as you say, want to be opposing those anti-protest laws which were introduced in New South Wales in the wake of Australia's worst ever terror attack, the Bondi attack, which did target the Jewish community. So they're coming out to say that these laws, in their view, are draconian and impinge on their freedom of speech. It's being organised by Stop the War on Palestine and Jews Against the Occupation, endorsed by a number of other groups like the Palestine Action Group, New South Wales Civil Liberties Council and also the New South Wales Greens.
These laws are a real worry. They give the police a lot of extra discretionary powers, particularly to stop marches, but also potentially to give move-on orders, even to peaceful static assemblies like this. That's why we said we think these laws are unconstitutional. They shouldn't have been passed. They should be scrapped. But in the meantime, yes, we still have a legal right to hold public assemblies, and that's what we'll do tonight.
Caroline, at about 5:30 tonight, we also saw one man being arrested by police. He was taken away and he was holding up a sign that said, blame Hamas. I tried to ask him why he turned out, why he was holding up that sign, and he didn't speak to me too much about why he decided to come down to this rally.
Well, he's right. They should be blaming Hamas, but they're not going to, are they? That'd be too sensible. Another thing too, that guy that's running the pro-Palestinian rallies in defiance. Look, look, let me just say that it's got to be said. It's got to be said. It's got to be. Hang on. I want to get my microphone out. They've got all these police for the pro-Palestinian rallies and crap and shit like that, but they had nothing for the Jewish people at Bondi Beach. Absolutely nothing. It's scandalous. Is it all, are they this blind? Are they this stupid? We're taxpayers' money paying for this crap. Bastards. They ought to be just shut them down. Shut them all down.
But other than that, we haven't really seen any major arrests or anything. Essentially, this isn't a ban on protest, Caroline. It is just meaning that people can't submit a Form 1 application. So it means that they're not protected from being charged with offences like blocking footpaths and blocking roads. So we could see more arrests as the night goes on if people do the wrong thing. The New South Wales Premier has really urged people to dial down the temperature.
Yeah. Julia, I mean, that person that was arrested, it doesn't fill me with confidence that this is how the protest has already begun. We saw the same scenes last year before the Opera House descended into the scene of absolute Jew hatred and rioting, where the only person that was arrested early on outside Town Hall was a man wearing an Israeli flag. And there's someone who just is saying blame Hamas, and he's spot on, and yet he's the one that police are moving on. Look, Josh Lees, who you interviewed earlier, he's defended phrases like globalise the intifada. Have you heard any chants like that yet? Or is it, I mean...
This is the whole problem. They're victimising and convicting the wrong people. That's the mentality of these governments. It's an international immigration agenda, right?
It's a bit early in the piece.
Well, Caroline, this event has only just got underway, so no chants of that kind that I've heard as of yet. I did in that interview, though, ask Josh Lees about those chants, given that the New South Wales Premier has previously flagged that he wishes to ban phrases like globalise the intifada, which, as you know, many in the Jewish community have said is really a violent phrase when being directed towards them. Josh Lees did say that he doesn't believe that that is a violent phrase, and doesn't even believe as well that the phrase from the river to the sea is violent either. He says it's
because he's ignorant. He's an ignorant fool. That's why. He's an absolute, complete ignorant fool. He's encouraging the genocide then.
Call for resistance. So haven't heard anything of that nature just yet, but we'll be covering this event.
Thank you, Julia.
Future of protests in New South Wales as police deliberate another extension to current restrictions. The emergency laws have been in place since the Bondi terror attack back in December, but civil liberties experts have been critical of them. I'm joined here in the studio by Tim Roberts, President of the New South Wales Council for Civil Liberties. Hi there, Tim. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
What is your major concern with this new legislation? Well,
the laws we're talking about here are a broad discretion for the Police Commissioner to basically decide what protests can and can't be authorised. And that is to say are protected from the intervention of police powers. There's a very broad chilling effect with that sort of police oversight and discretion that we're worried about, and we're really calling on the Commissioner to not extend the powers, and we're still pressing that the New South Wales Premier sees sense and winds these laws back.
Do you agree, though, Tim, that in the light of the awful attack in Bondi, that there did need to be some restrictions on mass gatherings?
Well, there needs to be restrictions, but they've put the focus on anything and everything but Islamic ideology. They've never mentioned Islam. They say they haven't even mentioned Islam ideology. The whole problem behind it. Incredible.
I don't really. I think there's a link that's been made by this government between the protest that we saw, the peaceful protest we saw through Sydney, and the Bondi attack. The two are not linked, and those who try to connect them, I think, are doing so in bad faith. We have democratic rights of assembly and speech, which is what we're talking about.
He's wrong. It's all religion. It's all religion. Anybody that doesn't think that's absolutely mental. Oh, well, absolutely wrong. Let me say wrong. I don't want to play psychiatry. Is wrong. Now, they're all connected. They're supporting Hamas. Why do you think that guy walked through with a sign saying blame Hamas and then gets shoveled away? The Royal Commission's all about that. It's about getting the Middle Eastern Islamic jihadism ideology out of Australia, but they don't know how to. They're completely ignorant.
When we're talking about protest, as a community, it's essential that we have a freedom to do that, so that we can legitimise the democracy that puts Mins in power to give him and pass these laws.
The police would, and the politicians would argue, we're not stopping people from protesting, we're just putting constraints on them. They can protest in one set spot, for example, and then this will be analysed. So are those boundaries still too much for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the powers that are on play here are so broad and so encompassing that I just don't think that the nitty-gritty about constraint is a much more nuanced conversation than these laws even propose. The Police Commissioner has a right to extend without limit, at his own discretion, for 3 months to ban any authorisation of protest in very unrestricted areas. So that's
presumably he's taking guidance, though.
No, he doesn't. He said it in the last police conference. I don't have to consult with anyone about this. This is his.
Does he have to give reasons?
He'd be taking guidance. This guy is biased.
He just has the power. The Minsk government has just given him this power. Now, Malian is probably a fantastic operational leader of the police, but I think he's distracted from that role when he's taking on a political conversation and a political task about banning protests. And we're talking about all protests. We're in the shadow of the Australia Day and likely Invasion Day conversation that's going to happen here. And
he has actually said that there won't be infringements on protests for...
Now, I'm Aboriginal by my grandmother on my father's side. You can see the flag in the background. This idea that they're calling it Invasion Day, I'm glad I'm not out there eating snakes, dying at a young age, struggling to live and all that. I take nothing away from my ancestors that had to do that, and probably some of them still are. But yet there is a part of this that was advantageous and a great opportunity for the Aboriginals to help themselves, and some did and some didn't. It is true that in a sense it was an invasion because Cook was told not to interfere with inhabited lands, so there is a case for that. But there was definite advantages that come with the British settlement, definitely. Not all bad news.
That day.
Which is fantastic, but who is the police commissioner to say they can or can't happen at all? That's our question. I don't want to be looking to the report every 2 weeks to see what our police commissioner says. That's not how our democracy works. We have that freedom, and I quite frankly think he's infringed upon it.
What would you like to see happen?
I'd like to see him in this moment, because he's been given powers that he shouldn't have, show the discretion and not extend. To use the legislation says he can choose not to extend. I'd like to see him do that. I think it's a show of good faith to the community with the conversations that are happening. The global conversations around Venezuela and other things have moved on. So there's demonstrations that are happening now. There's groups in the community that should be free to ask police for authorisation and assembly, and we're better for it as a community.
There's also the question, Tim, of how these events, both historically and I guess in the future, are policed, because different protest events are policed differently, aren't they? And he is the man that's deciding that.
And we see it, and that I think is one of the other concerns. I want a police force that is focused on keeping us safe, and I think their role is undermined in that if we've got people really questioning how they're responding to some protests over others. We want to see the even hand of the law, and I think what we're seeing, unfortunately, at least colloquially, is some protests like the Palestine action groups and representations seeing a lot more.
The evil hand of the law. We just watched them lumber off a bloke with a sign saying blame Hamas. Oh, come on.
More police presence, a lot more scrutiny, whereas others not so much. I think even the fact that we're having that question and that conversation is a distraction from what police should be doing. And I think the community's better served when they're focused on just that.
After the Bondi terror attack, it was generally believed that something needed to be done to curb the wave of anti-Semitism. Do you think this is being used as one of those methods?
I think this is being used as a way for politicians. I think we're seeing a bit of it at the federal level as well with the hate speech laws, where we're using politicians using broad sweeping powers to try and encroach on our freedoms of speech, as opposed to getting down to the real rub of community, social cohesion. You don't get to peace by just silencing the community. That's just asking for people to be quiet. Angry dads do the same thing when they ask for the kids to shut up at home. That's not peace. That's not a happy family. If we want a happy community, we need to have the freedom to have that discussion. I think protest is one way of doing that. And I think maybe civil laws and discussions in discrimination tribunals may be another. The criminal law, the use of police power, is fundamentally not that.
You mentioned the hate speech laws, which Parliament in Canberra is going to debate Monday, Tuesday next week. The Liberals are saying it needs to be thought out more. Is there a danger when there's such horrific acts like happened at Bondi Beach that politicians, the legislators, try to rush through new rules, new regulations to try and counter what has happened, to try and appease the surge in public feeling?
I think we have a political class at the moment that wants to seem to be doing something. And I think laws like this are just that. A broad sweeping, unconsidered laws, 3 days of community consultation, ridiculous. It's not good faith, it's not transparency, it's not good government. So I think we have a Prime Minister that wants to seem strong on this, and he's, I think, really undermining again the democracy that put him in place. If he wants to seem strong, I ask him to show true political leadership, abandon these laws, and get down to the real rub instead of these culture wars almost that we're having.
The rubber hitting the road is Islamic ideology, but they never even named it in the bill. It's a scandal. The whole thing's a scandal. They've got no idea what they're dealing with. See the Lebanese flag in the background? Yeah, on my dad's side, my grandfather was Lebanese. They're mad. You want the jihadism, it'll just go covert. It won't change anything.
In the divisions in our community. And you don't do that by undermining our civil liberties.
Tim Roberts from the Council for Civil Liberties, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
to be put to the test when hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters take to the streets of Sydney. The protesters are set to go head-to-head with riot police here at Town Hall for the first time since the Bondi massacre. The protest group, which is supported by the Hizb ut-Tahrir-linked Stand for Palestine, the Friends of Palestine, along with the Greens, will all be here in large numbers, they say. They're also taking a stand against the Israeli President Isaac Herzog's planned trip to Australia. Now, new laws...
You know what? They've got no right to. They're not running Australia. Who do they think they are? They're not running this country.
Were brought in following the alleged Bondi terror attack as a way to tone down the temperature and respect the victims of what had taken place. Under the new laws, people can still gather, but they just don't have the same protections as they would when they receive written approval. They're also unable to move around. Police say there's been limited communication from the pro-Palestinian organisers, despite officers reaching out to them. It's unclear whether the laws will be kept...
They've gone, stuff yous. We're just going to do what we want as far as we can. They don't give a shit about the police and that.
In place for Australia Day,
with
a number of rallies, marches and even barbecues set to take place. In their current form, the laws lapse on the 20th of January, and these laws aren't in place in any other state other than New South Wales. The Palestinian supporters say that these laws stifle their right to protest. God. What do you think? Should the protests be allowed to go ahead without restrictions, or should the protesters wait until the ban is lifted and respect the families of the massacre victims?
They should be completely and utterly banned. Absolutely. Well. Here's the bloke that just did that interview. Guess where he is? In the middle of the... He's in the middle of the protest. No wonder his views were up and down. Oh, my God. This is out of control.
Yes, erode our rights. The rights that got them there. It's a disgrace. So let's take our time, colleagues, because as much as we will keep fighting, it may not be as peaceful as this. It may not be as relaxed as this. And I shudder at the thought, but we will persist. The speakers before me have said everything that can be said, and I'm not going to go over the eloquence of that. They've done it much better than I. They're right. These governments have disgraced themselves by undermining the very democracies that put them in power. Minns undermines the rights that got him where he is right now. He's closing the door, he's got in there, him and his friends are sorted, and he's making sure that we can't get out there and criticise his government and assemble at the front of it. Into the stairs. He undermines our community by disgracefully linking what has been unabashedly peaceful protests time and time again, rallies like this, standing up against a legitimate criticism of the actions of the state of Israel, and he does that and he links it to disgraceful...
Hang on a sec, it's not legitimate. Israel's defending itself. So how can that be legitimate? Israel's just fighting for itself. You just can't have marauders crossing the border and just shooting up people that are watering their lawns and playing on the swings and in the children's playground and having barbecues or what, sitting there watching telly, getting machine gunned. Oh, God.
Anti-Semitism and also the violence we saw in Bondi. It's dangerous rhetoric. It's divisive rhetoric.
So he's contradicting himself. The violence we saw in Bondi is a result. It's the flow over of what's going on with Hamas and them cronies. Those terrorists over there. Oh.
It's about social cohesion. You've heard me say it before, he doesn't know the meaning of the word.
Oh, well, this might come under Anthony. If Anthony Albanese gets the bill through, this guy's going to be in real big trouble because that's hate speech.
The Minns and, quite frankly, the police commissioner, I think in some of his rhetoric, they don't want peace, they just want quiet. Like an angry dad at home that tells the kids to shut up. He just wants them to go away and the problems to go away. Well, we all know that's not a happy home, and this isn't a happy state if we have a premier that leads it like that. A party that was built on value.
So where are we hearing the whistles at the moment, viewers? In Minnesota, in America, where they're disrupting the law over there. Listen to this in the background.
We
we're going to keep standing up against the genocide in Gaza. We're going to keep demanding our government sanction the genocidal regime. We're not going to be cowed by anti-protest laws. We're not going to be cowed by the obscene lies coming from
There's a Lebanese flag in the background. Not sure what that's supposed to mean. I know that Lebanon's got some serious problems with Hamas, that's for sure.
people who have supported the genocide in Gaza. Why do you think the Business Council wants to ban our protests? Because many of their members profit from the genocide in Gaza. It's not rocket science. We can see what's going on. We see through it all. We're not going to be cowed. Keep fighting and free Palestine! Free.
Okay, this is where these people are completely ignorant, and it's called willful blindness, which is what the Anthony Albanese government will be crucified for, because that's why they didn't want the Royal Commission. They've put it through, and if the Royal Commission, which you don't need to have, I failed at school, Tammy. I completely failed at school. Right, I was in the classes. You remember the kids that used to have the Band-Aid over their eyes, and they'd come in wheelchairs, and you know, they'd have a hand or a leg missing. I was in that class, right? They couldn't speak. They were cross-eyed, and one ear be missing, or they'd have hearing aids. I was in that class, right? I'm not just kidding. I was in that class, and I failed at school. But I sat here, and there's videos on this channel, and I sat here, didn't I? And I said, someone's going to get killed. There's going to be a terrorist attack, and I was right. Now, these people, right, there's people with a Lebanese flag in the background. Have they ever been to Lebanon? The Christian Lebanese would be mortified to see that in the middle of this bunch of thugs. Israel's fighting for its survival. And what we saw at Bondi was just a horrific terrorism event. But in comparison to missiles dropping out of the sky by the thousands, right, by the thousands onto Israel, involuntarily, unprovoked, just sent in, we're just going to blow them up. You know, come on. They're saying it's a genocide. Well, put their asses over in Israel and sit them there and wait for the missiles to come over, fired by their mates, right, Hamas and them mugs, right, the terrorists, and see how they go then. And leave them there. Okay? If Israel didn't have that anti-missile weaponry system, and I think they've improved it too, they'd be annihilated. Now, the Bible says that it's going to be, the only thing that's going to save Israel in the end is their God, right? And that will prove that there is a God, because there'll be no other way to explain it. Israel will be just about to be annihilated, and God himself's going to have to save the joint, because nobody else is going to be able to. Nobody, right? Not the Allies, no one. The assault is going to be so fierce and severe and evil that right just before Israel's annihilated, the Lord himself's just going to do something. I don't know how he's going to do it, but all the enemies are going to be just dropped. Now, these fools, right, and that's what I'm going to call them, ignorant, willfully blind fools, have no idea with the powers that they're dealing with. None. No idea at all. None. To say that Israel's doing a genocide, they're fighting for their lives.
Free Palestine! From the river to the sea!
See, from the river to the sea, that chant, that's the annihilation of the Jews. That's a prophetic chant asking for, right, into the heavenlies and the spiritual realm to hasten the annihilation, eradication of the Jewish race. Now, this is how disrespectful these people are. We've just had why aren't the police taking these people away? He's just said from the river to the sea. He just said it. It's there in black and white. They should be going and finding him and taking him away. They've taken some poor old bloke away that walked through the middle of them with a sign saying, blame Hamas. They lumbered him off like he was a crim. That's the criminal there. From the river to the sea is not hate speech. That's murder. That's asking for murder. Murder the Jews. Murder the Jews. They've got no idea about the evil that they're dealing with. They take all these out. If these people went to bloody Palestine and were at the mercy of Hamas, the ones with the lesbians and gays, they'd be first to go, and they'd get what they could out of this bloke, and then they'd deal with him as well. Arabian maliciousness has been going for millenniums. They kill each other, they kill tribes, they kill the people down the road, they kill the people over the other side of the hill in the desert, they rape their women, they kill their children. You know, the Jews used to do it too. They had to. God told them to. If somebody hassles you out, just wipe the lot of them out. Cats, dogs, kids, women. Read the Old Testament. But that's how it works over there, because if you don't, they just keep coming to destroy you. It's a vicious evil beyond comprehension of the Western world. See, what they don't realise is the Western world has found a way. This is where it's all taken for granted. We have found a way, the people that have created this great country, to be able to live in harmony. Right? And this stuff completely undermines it. It turns on itself. It implodes, explodes. It ruins everything around it. For him to be able to stand there and say from the river to the sea, they should be taking him away immediately. Tammy, do you agree? They should be taking him away immediately. That's not hate speech. That's murder. That's inciting murder. That's encouraging people to attack the Jews. How are they getting away with this? It's absolute crap. That is the answer there to the Royal Commission. Don't have a Royal Commission. Just get rid of these people and the problem's solved.
Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free!
You know, how can they stand there and say from the river to the sea after everything that's happened? It's contrary to why are they bringing in gun laws and hate speech and all this? There's the problem right there.
And they are going suburb to suburb and killing the people, whoever is in the street. And in some countries, they cannot come out, in some towns, they cannot come out after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We are in a war zone country at the moment, and we need your support. Thank you. Okay.
Our support, they're pulling our country apart, these people. You know, we want to just put a shrimp on the barbie and go down the beach with our thongs on and surf and that. And we got these lunatics telling us about people murdering each other in the Middle East. And every now and then a couple of them will murder or you know, the Aussies, the Jews and whatnot. He was targeting Jews, but I'm sure he shot some other people as well. He killed a Russian bloke. They killed a Russian bloke and his wife before they even started on the footpath.
We have got a gathering here, a static protest in support of Iranian people, and we invite everybody to come and support the people. Regardless, you know, we don't care that, I don't know why people say, this lady tells me that I'm lying. I'm talking on behalf of the people whom I have spoken to.
Okay, so in Iran, viewers, for those of you that don't know, they're undoing the Sharia law and stuff that the Muslims set up to keep them in a communist state. They'd had enough of it. I'll keep saying it. These people don't understand the evil that they're inciting onto this country. They don't understand it. They're completely clueless.
It's in Macquarie Street.
That's one of the archives of Sydney. What's he doing up there with the fucking, Palestine flag?
That's disgusting.
Oh, God. Okay. So, viewers, can you guys remember when the guy with the Palestinian flag rode along Bondi Beach? Right, on a horse with a Palestinian flag. The next thing, they're shooting up Bondi Beach. Is this some kind of... Can't you see that all this does is incite jihadism? That's all it does. Somebody ought to run up there, and Aussie should run up there and take it off him. Like, it's completely wrong. Now what? Here's another one. It's just monotonous, isn't it? I mean, if these people went to Palestine, they wouldn't know what day it was, or anywhere in the Middle East, you know, and started this crap. They'd just lock them up. Or they'd probably chop them up. Goodness gracious.
Our message is clear tonight. We are still waiting to see sanctions on this genocidal state, and we are expecting the visit of a war criminal in a few short weeks, so we will see you back on the streets for that. Thank you.
A man's been arrested at a pro-Palestinian rally in Sydney's CBD this evening. There's a heavy police presence with a ban on authorised public assembly still in place in the wake of the Bondi terror attack. Our reporter Alex Lewis is there. Evening, Alex. Tell us about the arrest.
Well, yes, the man appears to have been a counter-protester. He was carrying a piece of cardboard with the words "Blame Hamas." Police took him to Day Street Police Station, where he was where he was released, I should say, without charge. But apart from that, things appear to have been...
Believe it? They're singing out. They're standing there singing out from the river to the sea. Some bloke that's got a little bit of dignity and principle about himself shuffles through with "Blame Hamas" on a piece of cardboard, which is actually the fact of the matter, and he gets dragged off to the police station. Can you believe it?
No, I'm not surprised. Get the wrong people.
We're back where we started. It's all going to happen again. I'm warning this government. You are inciting terrorism in this country. You're still doing it on the... Oh my God. I hope the Royal Commission takes this government down for willful blindness, which they've threatened to do.
Quite peaceful here. There is a heavy police presence. You can see riot squad police over there. There are also mounted police. This is an...
Have a go at it. Not a police presence at all in Bondi. Not one. Not one. For 20 minutes. And look at this. Us silly bastards are paying for all this, for these mugs to stand in there and basically sneak in from the river to the sea and all their other terrorism statements. That man the man that said that needs to be arrested, or they're just having us on. They're just gaslighting us. The whole Chris Minns and all of them. They're just gaslighting us. Do you agree, Tammy? They should be dragging that guy off for inciting terrorism. We're back where we started. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke.
Authorised public assembly, which doesn't mean that it's unlawful, but if protesters were to spill onto the street or start marching, they would no longer have any immunity from offences like blocking traffic or obstructing pedestrians. Now, it's an unauthorised protest because of new laws brought in.
It's an unauthorised protest. He just said it himself. So why aren't they making arrests? Some guy shuffles down the street, which he's got every right to, with a sign saying "Blame Hamas," and they lock him up. Oh my God. So you can stand there and say from the river to the sea, but you can't have a sign saying blame Hamas. This country's gone to, I don't know where it is. They're going to fork out millions and millions of dollars for a Royal Commission. We know what the problem is. We're looking at it right now.
Just before Christmas in response to the Bondi terror attack. Now, these laws gave police the power to ban authorised public assemblies for 2 weeks during a terror.
All he's done is walk down the street with a sign saying blame Hamas. That's all he's done. And look at him. So they're part of the agenda. It's all gaslighting. They're not going to do anything. If I was an Israeli, if I was a Jew, I'd leave Australia. Leave the place. It's gone. Leave Australia. Look at it. He's standing there with the answer. The answer's in his hands. Right? They don't want you to have the answer. Obviously, because they're dragging him off. He's got the answer in his hands and they're going, no, we're going to arrest you for that. That shows you that the place is dangerous and there will be another terrorism attack. If they're letting people stand there and say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. In other words, shoot every fucking Jew in sight if you get a chance. And this guy gets lumbered for carrying a piece of cardboard with the answer to the problem on it. No.
Ban authorised public assemblies for 2 weeks during a terror declaration. Now that the Commissioner has enacted that power, so it remains in place. And it's this power that's as much of the subject of tonight's protest as...
Do you know what this is costing the taxpayer? Millions!
Israel's actions in Gaza, as protest organiser Josh Lees explained to me.
We need to keep rallying, as we have done for...
No, they should lock this guy up because he's out there chanting from the river to the sea. How can he be still standing there? What gives him the right to do that? Because he's running this pack of mugs singing out crap that they want to wipe out the Jews and whatnot? How can he be standing there? They should have handcuffed him and taken him away and charged him for inciting terrorism. He stood there and said, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Fucking unbelievable. Unbelievable.
2 years now to try and stop this horrific atrocity that's going on. As well as that, of course, our government has passed these terrible anti-protest laws in New South Wales, and we're rallying to say
He don't give a shit about how many Jews are being shot at Bondi or any of the rest of it. He say he will, he does and all that, but he don't. And you know why we know he doesn't? Because he stood there and screamed out in front of all of his useful or useless idiots, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. In other words, Australia, you can go and get stuffed. We're going to push terrorism whether you like it or not.
Should be rejected.
Now, that ban on authorised public assemblies expires next week, and protesters are concerned that it could be extended for another 2 weeks, which would then affect Invasion Day protests. The laws allow that ban to be extended for up to 3 months following a terror event, which is among the reasons a constitutional challenge has been launched. Protest groups say that these laws are...
Not one thing has been learned from the Bondi massacre. Not one thing. Viewers, I'll see you on the next one. That guy, Josh Lees, he needs to be found and locked up. Right? You can't get out there and incite terrorism.